Good morning, good morning. It's Carol Chamberlain in for Leza Live on the News 103.5 KYCA. And good happy Halloween morning.
Happy Halloween morning to you too, Carol.
Well, thanks. I just love your costume.
I know. I'm going as scary Matt Hinshaw.
Matt Hinshaw is not scary.
I'm terrifying.
So if you had a costume, what would you have?
I mean, ultimately, I would love to dress up as the heavy Mandalorian from Star Wars, but that is a very expensive, time-consuming costume to make.
You know, I don't even remember what that costume would look like.
Well, you know Boba Fett, right? You saw the original Star Wars films.
I saw the original Star Wars.
Yeah, he's from the show of the Mandalorian, and he's the really big guy with a basically Gatling, repeater blaster. Yeah, he's awesome.
Nothing
I
like
had to stop myself because I almost said something else, but he's awesome.
Nothing like a repeater blaster, I have to say.
See, you get it, Carol. but you know I was late today, right?
Why?
Because I didn't want your time here to end.
Oh my gosh. I have to tell you, it has been a wonderful 3 weeks with you guys. I couldn't ask for better. Really.
I mean, I think Drew could have brought it a little bit better, but that's me.
Well, let's just talk about Drew bringing it a little bit better. He has on a costume.
He does. He outshowed us.
He did. What's your costume, Drew?
I'm a garbage collector because I'm garbage according to Joe Biden. So I thought as long as I was garbage, I would help our ex-president or former President Trump in bringing out the trash. And if you didn't see him driving the garbage truck, it was pretty impressive.
I did not.
Actually, he didn't drive the garbage truck. He was in the garbage truck.
Oh, well, yeah.
And it was in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It was hilarious.
Oh, that is funny.
Turn a negative into a positive.
He's pretty good at doing that, unless he's really mad, and then he just all holds barred. Anyway, not only do I like your garbage vest, I like your Make America Great Again hat. So
I was doing, and I got that at the Trump rally, not this time, the last time.
Oh, I watched last time as
at the airport.
Flew over my house.
Oh, that was cool.
Yes, it really was. It was good to see. Okay, so today is Halloween.
I thought Matt would have went with like a Wookiee costume or either, and I think he'd make a really good Baloo the Bear.
Oh.
Wow. Actually, the one that I've always been told I am is Eeyore.
Oh.
No, you act like Eeyore sometimes, but you're more like Baloo the Bear.
That's true. That's true. But actually, Drew, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the 501st. I'm going to go off on a Star Wars tangent now. But the 501st is a costuming group that dresses up as Darth Vader and stormtroopers and all that stuff. If you see them out in events or hospitals or whatever, it's usually them. And they have been trying to get me to do Darth Vader for years because I'm the exact height and size of the actor that played Darth Vader in the originals.
Oh, really? I can see you in that black helmet and that black cape and those black boots and that saber.
Yeah.
Lightsaber,
right. The problem is the costume takes many years to make and costs a lot of money, and I don't have time. So
actually, I sew now.
Do you? Well, then done. You're doing it for me.
Actually, that could be your Christmas present, couldn't it?
Oh, you're the best, Carol.
I'll have to take your measurement.
Being Halloween, why don't we talk about movies, right? What's your favorite horror movie? I was curious about that the other day when you were talking that you like horror movies.
Actually, it has to be Halloween, the original Halloween.
Okay.
It was my very favorite one. And I remember sitting in that theater just being scared like the dickens.
Well, it's a good one. It's a very good one.
Yes, it was. Okay, but do you know how Halloween really started? Back in the olden days, really hungry kids on Halloween, which is the day before All Souls Day, would go knocking on doors begging for food and they would promise in return to pray for the lost souls of that house. So it was really called Souling Day. I thought that was really pretty interesting. And somehow or another it developed into candy for...
Yeah, I was going to say that changed the mood of the show. Homeless kids begging for food? Wow.
Okay, so let's see, this year, Americans are expected to shell out an average of $108 on Halloween candy, decorations, and costumes. These people obviously do not live on Mount Vernon,
No, not at all.
where I think I heard yesterday it was 1,800.
Oh, I've heard some wild numbers over the years.
Yeah, so
Upwards of $3,000-$4,000 on candy.
oh, ouch.
Yeah.
We learned all about that yesterday on the show before ours. I believe that was Charlie talking about that.
Right. You were correct.
Okay, so there's a few more bucks than last year, which ended up breaking records when we collectively shelled out more than $12 billion celebrating Halloween. So this year's most Googled costumes, and you all are going to have to help me with these.
I got you.
Shrunken Head Bob from Beetlejuice sequel.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
is it? What does that look like?
So, did you watch the original Beetlejuice?
I don't think I did. And
Okay.
when I heard y'all talking about it, I need to do that.
Oh, it's great. It's a lot of fun. I think it's a fun horror/comedy. More comedy than horror.
Anything like Rocky Mountain Rocky, what is it? Rocky
Horror Picture Show. No.
No.
Not at
No.
all. It's more of a
Not
kids.
even close.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
in Chicago. We used to dress up and go to the theater for that.
Oh, that was always good.
Yeah.
They had a couple performances here in Prescott Valley this year, and I think people were dressing up and going to those.
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good.
But no. So he's like really tall. I think taller than 6 foot, 7 foot, with a tiny shrunken head.
Oh.
Like the size
That
of
looks
a
really
baseball.
attractive. I've got a
Oh,
picture
gosh,
now.
It's hilarious.
Okay. That would be harder to do unless you had a massive body and somehow shrunk your head. Okay, Doctor Doom.
Okay. Yeah, that's from Marvel Comics. It's because Robert Downey Jr. was announced as Doctor Doom in the next, big Marvel film
Oh.
earlier this year at one of the Comic-Cons.
And I think I read something about how Robert Downey Jr. is saying that he will sue anybody who tries to use that image with artificial intelligence. There's
Good
a
luck.
big old deal about that, I guess. Okay, Wolverine.
Oh, heck yeah. That's from Deadpool and Wolverine, another Marvel character, one of my favorites.
Well, is that Jack?
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
I knew there was a Jack in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, Lady Deadpool.
Yeah, so that's from the same film / intellectual property. She was in the film, the Deadpool versus Wolverine film this past summer, which so far is pretty much my favorite movie of the year, just because I'm biased.
Oh,
but
that's pretty good. And it says that the Lady Deadpool costume is just Deadpool, but on a woman and tighter.
pretty much, yeah. Although her big thing is she has a ponytail, obviously, and she carries two Uzis instead of historically Desert Eagles is what Deadpool carries.
You just are full of this trivia
I'm
about
a super
movies.
nerd. Yeah, you could. I know.
He's loving this.
Yeah, I get the comics. I watch the movies. I'm a giant nerd. I have problems. You can say it, Carol. Shake your head and be like, yeah.
No,
I'm now
actually,
disappointed
I
in you.
am really impressed. I am truly impressed. It is no wonder that you have such a popular podcast.
See, this is how women usually don't act when I say these things.
Oh, really?
It's usually the opposite.
Well, I have to tell you that they don't want more knowledge about
No,
stuff.
they
Is all
don't.
I can say.
See, you get it. Carol, you're not allowed to leave. You're staying.
Okay, the most popular costume for a dog. If only Leza were here, I'd be really interested in knowing what Bubba was dressed up as. But anyway, the costume is Dog Pool.
Of course. Again, from the movie.
So how would you make
And
a dog?
comic.
How would you make a dog look like that?
Same thing. You make a red and black suit. Yeah.
Okay, it's followed by a pumpkin. Those are really two diametrically opposed costumes, I'd say.
Yeah, that's very different than a dog pull. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very different.
So, in the 1700s, single ladies used to throw apple peels over their shoulders on Halloween to help them score a husband. I guess that was before Tinder or whatever they're doing now.
You don't want to know. It's a nightmare. I don't recommend it to any sane person.
What, an apple peel or Tinder?
Both.
Oh, back in the day. I mean, now you just have to have people introduce you. Okay. Something is happening to haunted houses. Okay, Drew, when was the last time you were in a haunted house?
I really would have to say probably 10 years ago.
Oh, 10, only 10. That's really good.
Yeah, I went to the Universal Studios haunted house, and that was really impressive.
Oh,
I got roped into it. Some friends came from out of town, and they were going to go, and they said, "Oh, why don't you come with us?" So I said, "Okay," and very well done. You know,
Oh.
they wouldn't jump out or touch you, or you know it's fake, but I'll tell you what, if you had young kids, that was pretty scary.
That's absolutely amazing. Well, apparently, Americans will spend $12 billion scaring themselves silly this Halloween. $12 billion, which I think is pretty interesting. New York's Blood Manor is one of the scariest fright fests around. However, there's a so-called extreme haunted house in Tennessee that's causing a big controversy. It's called the McCamey Manor. No idea where McCamey comes from. Maybe it's the name of a house. I mean, the real family. Some people have been through McCamey Manor, say that they've been beaten, abused, and humiliated. Now,
That
let me
usually costs extra.
I was going to say,
I was,
that's usually my Friday night.
I was going to say, they pay money for this?
Yeah.
That's really amazing. There's a $20,000 prize for anyone who endures the entire 8-hour ordeal, but nobody's ever won it.
8 hours for 20 minutes? Or for 20 hours? What is that?
8 hours for
For
$20,000.
I'm going to Tennessee right after we get done with the show.
Let's do it, Drew. I'm with you, man. I just need to bring a sandwich for the 8 hours.
That's
Have
it.
something to eat. That's a long time to be, screaming. So
Yeah, exactly.
How long? Well, maybe they feed you stuff like raw liver and eyeballs and stuff like that.
it's fine as long as it's protein.
Hey, you're in the South. You might as well enjoy it. It's probably going to be deep fried.
True.
Well, actually, that is true. And what bad could be deep fried? I mean, that's so true. Okay, so, I find this very sad. There are a lot of people who are taking their names off of organ donation lists. Apparently, transplant experts are seeing a spike in people revoking their organ donations after the story about a Kentucky man who was mistakenly pronounced dead. Now, we've all heard about the clawing of the top of a coffin and all that. Well, this man in 2021, though the details are still murky, he reportedly woke up on the operating table before they harvested his organs. Ouch.
He's on our operating table. How do they not have a pulse?
Well, I guess there are some conditions that actually make it sort of hard. I'm not sure which conditions those are, and I hope none of us ever has it. But Donate Life America says that 170 people a day have taken themselves off the donor list since the story broke, which is 10 times more than normal. I think that's just so sad. After a Gift of Life Michigan says they've seen a 500% increase in phone calls from people who want to be removed from the registry. Wow, what a Halloween story. All I can say. Okay.
Boo. Boy, it took the wind right out of my sails. I want candy. I want something now.
Okay. So let's talk about the dead list of top earning celebrities. Michael Jackson's been up there for a long time. I think 15 years after his death, he's still the highest paid. His musical, the Michael Jackson musical, is still bringing in $6 million a week from shows in London, Las Vegas, and the U.S. tour. I find that pretty amazing. Freddie Mercury comes in second this year after the sale of the Queen catalog of music in June and the continued success of the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, which I just love. Did you love that one?
Oh, yeah, it was a good film.
Good
Yeah.
flick.
Very good.
As good as Deadpool?
No.
Dr. Seuss, Elvis, Matthew Perry, and Prince are also in the top 10, which I find just absolutely amazing.
It's probably, the Friends syndication, I would guess.
Yeah.
They make a lot of money on that show still.
Okay, that will. I hadn't thought about that. Yes, of
Yeah.
course they do. Okay, and here's one last one for you. I am awfully glad that the election will be over on Tuesday. It's all going to be over.
No, it will not be over, but
Well, all
we'll
right.
try.
Okay.
Well, they got a problem down in Maricopa. They got to take their shoes off to count once they get past 10. So, as you can tell, I don't like those people down there.
Actually, I've been hearing more about that.
It's
I
not
heard
the
last-
people. The people are fine. It's the recorder, the governor. I could go on. But anyway, I find them to be extremely frustrating and insulting.
So here is an amazing one. We all remember that Elon Musk offered money to people to vote, get out and vote. I mean, he's
Right,
trying
yeah.
everything to have people. Well, a strip club in Las Vegas is offering free incentives to vote on election day.
Go on.
The Crazy Horse Gentlemen's Club will give visitors free lap dances when they flash their "I voted" sticker.
Drew, can I borrow some I voted stickers?
They promise there will be no political bias. Voters for both the right and the left will be treated equally. They'll also host a voting party from noon to 8, where the only political poll that will be polished is of the brass variety.
I like it. I like it.
All I can say is get out there and vote.
So after we're going to Vegas, Matt,
Oh yeah, no, we need to get
on our way to Tennessee.
On your way to Tennessee.
we need to pick up a stack of I vote stickers though, because I'm wondering if it's one lap dance per sticker, and we need as many stickers as possible.
I got two on my table here on the board, and I got a couple at the house. That's 4. What are you going to do?
I'm gonna go rob the county.
Okay, folks, we'll be right back after this with a conversation with the Honorable Judge Anna Young. Welcome back. It's Carol Chamberlain in for Leza live on the news 103.5 KYCA. And we are so honored to have the Honorable Judge Anna Young. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Carol.
Oh my gosh, I am just delighted. And it's nice to have you as a newbie to radio.
You know, I was thinking about it, and I have never been on the radio.
Oh, I'm so glad we could be your first.
Well, I appreciate the invitation.
So tell us how you got to Prescott.
Well, I actually ended up moving to Prescott when I was a junior in high school. Which was a tough time to move, you can imagine.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can. PHS?
Yes.
Okay.
Go Badgers, class of 90.
Very good.
So, yeah, I did my last 2 years of high school here in Prescott, but I actually grew up overseas. My dad's a petroleum engineer.
Oh, really? So what country?
So I was born in England. That's where my dad met my mom because he was working in the North Sea.
Oh.
And then we lived in Angola and Egypt and Italy and then Saudi twice.
Oh, wow.
And then we ended up in little old Prescott.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
Yeah.
how'd you get here?
So my dad had always wanted to live in Durango, Colorado. And so when my parents left Saudi the first time, my dad convinced my mom that we needed to go live in our vacation home in Durango, Colorado. Well, after living in Saudi for 5 years, you can imagine we were never warm. We were cold for 2 years, basically, when we were there. And so then my parents met some people who were in Prescott, and they came here to Prescott. They loved it. And so they moved us here when I was a junior. But then right after I graduated from high school, my parents moved back to Saudi for another 6 years.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Have you visited them? Did you visit them there?
Yeah, I would go back twice a year. And it was really nice because when I would go back, they called us returning students when we were college kids. And so all of these young people that I had grown up with from the time I was 8 to 13, they were back too.
Oh,
And so,
so
yeah.
a reunion
Exactly.
of sorts.
Yeah, so it was fantastic.
Okay, so where'd you go to university?
Undergrad and law school, both the University of Arizona and Tucson.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that was a climate change for you even from here.
It was fantastic. I was warm. Yeah.
Oh, you were
Yeah.
you were hanging on to those Saudi roots there.
I'm a hothouse flower when it comes down to it. Even like today, when I drove to work, I was like, oh, it's so cold right now. I'm thinking about all the poor little kids having to wear their coats over their costumes
Oh,
today.
that will
Yeah.
be the truth. That is so sad. Okay, so did you go into private practice after law school?
I did. I actually managed to get a job up here between my second and third year of law school with a plaintiff's personal injury firm. And so I worked over the summer, and then he kept me working during the school year. And so I would drive up on the weekend. I'd work on the Friday and Saturday, and then he hired me after law school. So I
Oh.
did that for about a year and a half, and then I joined Boyle Petrich. And then I did insurance defense for 5 years.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I was a partner there at that firm.
Oh.
And so
Great
I did
firm.
insurance. Yeah, they were a wonderful group of people to work with. And so I did insurance defense. And then I got to the point where I told them, I think I would like to do some family law because I'm ready for some real people as clients, not necessarily, insurance companies. And I remember did not get a great reaction from the managing partner. He said, you're going to hate it. And actually, it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it.
Oh my gosh, it's as if you found your calling.
I really did. Yeah. You're helping people through some of the worst times in their lives. And it was really, really rewarding. And so I did that primarily up until the time I took the bench.
So Jan Brewer appointed you to the bench.
Correct. In 2011.
2011. Not so long ago, but a lot when you think about what has transpired over those few years. So, what's it like to be on the bench?
Every day is different. And that's what I really, really like. Yeah.
So, what's the official court you're in?
Well, I'm Division 6 of Superior Court, so I could be assigned to any caseload. So when I first started, I did civil, probate, family law. So it really wasn't much of an adjustment because that's what I'd done as a lawyer.
Right.
And then I rotated to juvenile in January of 2013 when we opened the new Juvenile Justice Center out on Prescott Lakes Parkway.
Oh, sure.
And so I moved in there. And so I'm the only judge that's ever been housed in that building. And so I do
It's like your own
dependencies,
house.
delinquencies. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I built that house.
I know, and I've been there, years now. So, and it's really, it's a fantastic area to practice. And it's interesting because I never practiced juvenile law when I was an attorney.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh. So do you see this forever, or is it something that you're going to say at some point in time, maybe I've had enough of this?
You know, I've always said that if I get to the point where I think I burn out or that I'm not effective anymore, that I will ask to be rotated. And I haven't gotten to that point yet.
I hope-
I love what I do.
I am so happy to hear that, because for all the time I've been in this community, I've heard about how wonderful you are on the bench and how
thank
great you are to the young people in Yavapai County. So we really are lucky to have you. Don't want to see that change. We're going to be right back after this short break with Judge Young. KYCA, visiting with Juvenile Justice Judge Young, right?
Right. Yes.
So tell us what juvenile justice is. I think it's could be a little confusing.
Sure. They're actually, in the juvenile court, we actually handle kind of two prongs, basically. We do dependencies. And so those are the cases where the child might end up in foster care and the Department of Child Safety involved. So those are a dependency case where there might be abuse or neglect, or a parent might not be able to meet their child's needs. And then I also do the delinquencies, which are where kids get in trouble for things that would be, crimes if they were adults.
Okay.
And so I do both.
So, do you ever have anybody in as a juvenile that really should be in adult court? I mean, sometimes that's
Yeah,
an issue.
and it does happen. I can tell you that, unfortunately, statewide, we're seeing an increase in violent offenses with juveniles. Overall juvenile delinquency, which is what we call the crime rate, basically. Juvenile delinquency is down. But if you look at the statistics, then the violent offenses are up, like the gun offenses and things like that. And we're statewide, we are pulling together teams to try to look at this and try to combat this and try to, help kids make better choices so that way they don't get themselves in a situation where they end up being charged as an adult. Since COVID, we've housed the juveniles who are charged as adults in our detention center here.
Oh.
And so, at times we've had various kids who are facing adult charges. We've got a few right now. And so what happens sometimes is the county attorney will file the charges in juvenile court, and then they will actually ask me to transfer the case to adult court because it's a very serious offense, or they can go ahead and they can indict a juvenile as an adult, and then we hold them in our facility.
So are they mixed in the population with the less violent ones?
Well, yeah, and it's been really interesting because the kids who are actually charged as adults, those kids have been really well behaved in our detention center. They've not caused us any problems. And the really nice thing about being able to hold them in our detention center as opposed to shipping them off to an adult jail where they're held sight and sound separated from the adults is the kids here, they can attend school. Behavioral health does a good job of coming in and providing them with services. They're still in the county, and so their family's able to come and see them on visitation. And so it's been a really positive thing that's happened in the last few years.
Oh, I am really happy to hear that. We have a caller on the line. Craig Brown, is that you? Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. You have a question for Judge Young?
Hi, Supervisor Brown.
Actually, not a question. This is Craig Brown, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors. I wanted to comment on Judge Young's operations in the Juvenile Justice Center along with Director Newman and working with our county superintendent of schools. They have got a seamless program there that will benefit any of our, more or less misdemeaning juveniles here in Yavapai County, keeping the population low and being effective on having positive outcomes going into their futures. So I just wanted to congratulate Judge Young and Director Newman for that. They've done a great job over there.
That is a wonderful thing to hear.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate how supportive you've been over the years as well on the board and as your role as chair, and the fact that you've got the background that you do. And so you've understood full well what we're faced with. And so thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're more than welcome. But I think, your combination of you and Director Newman and Superintendent Carter, you guys have done a fabulous job with the kids.
Thank you.
Here in Yavapai County.
So that is so good to hear it. It goes with some of the other words I've heard to describe you, which are firm, fair, and friendly, with a healthy and quick wit, a steel-trapped mind, and a world traveler. Those all sound really good. I think it's time for us to take a break right now. We'll be back right after this with more Judge Young. Hello again. It's Carol Chamberlain in for Leza Live on the News 103.5 KYCA, talking with Judge Young. Good to have you.
Thanks, Carol.
So I really would like to, this is another in my series of a day in the life of a juvenile judge. So what does a day look like for you?
Generally, my calendar starts at 9. And so what I do is I have a block of time every single day that's available to see detained kids. And so what happens is if a young person's brought into the detention center, there's a screening instrument that's administered to figure out whether to detain them or whether to release them. If they get detained, then the county attorney has to file the charges within 24 hours, and I have to see the kid within 24 hours after that. So I just have a standing block of time at 9. I did it at 8:30 this morning so I could be here.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And well, thank you for the county attorney and the defense attorney for obliging me by move the hearing to 8:30. And so I do those hearings generally at 9, and then I go into my regular calendar, which depending on the day of the week, I might be doing dependency cases, those foster care cases all day. And I'll go until 5 o'clock, take an hour and a half for the lunch break. On Thursdays, I do delinquencies all day.
Oh.
On Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, I actually travel over to Camp Verde. And I do all the kids' cases over there. So in the morning, I'll do all the delinquency cases. In the afternoon, I'll do the dependency cases. So that's where I was yesterday, because we don't want families to have to travel all the way to Prescott if they live in Sedona or Cottonwood or Camp Verde. Yeah.
How very nice of you. I'm going to go back to the very first of your day. So they come in front of you and you have the option of charging them or having them charged or not having them charged?
No. So what happens is when the police officer brings the kid to the detention center, there's a detention screening instrument that's administered by the detention staff.
Okay.
And that's how they decide whether a child gets booked into detention or not.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Right. And you can't hold a kid in detention without the county attorney filing charges within 24 hours and them being booked in.
Okay.
And so, for instance, if a kid gets booked on Wednesday at 3 p.m., the county attorney has until Wednesday at 3 p.m., the next day at 3 p.m., and then I'll see the kid the following morning at 9.
Okay.
And then we don't do bond in juvenile cases. And so kids either get detained or they get released, or they can be detained with juvenile probation having discretion to release them. And then I order things like release conditions. So I can put kids on GPS units.
Oh.
Yeah, we've got a new program. It's a Reconnect program that's funded through the state. It was very interesting. The legislature was super interested in this program. And so we actually have cell phones with this Reconnect program on it, where the probation officers can text message with the kid. You can have just really, really limited capabilities on those cell phones, because we might have some kids where they engage in dangerous behavior if they have their own cell phone and unfettered access to the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
Not good.
right. And then we might have rules that they have to follow, like maybe they have to be on house arrest, or maybe they have to stay away from certain other kids that they've gotten in trouble with. You know, I always order things that they have to follow their family's rules, that they have to be law abiding, that they've got to go to school and work on their education.
Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh. Okay. So, I mean, your plan starts very early with
Right.
these kids.
Exactly.
So the cell phone monitors them. They don't have an ankle bracelet or anything like that.
We
on?
have both. We have the actual GPS units that are on a kid's ankle. But for kids who are involved in sports and things like that, it's really unwieldy.
Yeah.
You can imagine it's not super comfortable. And we know that young people have their phones with them at all times. And so we can either have them put the Reconnect app on their own phone or carry one of our Reconnect phones. And then the probation officer can just text them and say, "Where are you?" And the kid sends a text back, and it's geolocated, so that way the probation officer can tell whether the child's where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there.
We do.
Technology.
Yeah, I was going to say, we really do have a lot of helpful things to us these days. So you talk about juvenile delinquency. What are the most common delinquencies there are?
You know, we see, unfortunately, a lot of domestic violence charges, which are, things that could be like a child gets mad and punches a hole in the wall at home, or they're disorderly, they're screaming at their family members, things like that. We see a lot of disorderly conduct per domestic violence is what that charge is. So a lot of domestic violence. Unfortunately, we see a lot of drugs and alcohol.
Oh.
Yeah.
Has that gone up or down, or just stayed the same?
It's been a little different because we had Proposition 207 and when Prop 207 passed, that legalized marijuana for older people, over 21. But it also changed the consequences for young people. And so a lot of those kids don't come to court anymore. They're diverted. And so they do educational programming and things like that on their first and second offense rather than being cited into court like they used to before 2020.
So I'm assuming that those who have drug problems, and this is just an assumption, along with that goes stealing and things of that nature in order to support this habit. Is that the case?
I think we see less of that in the juvenile world than they do in the adult world.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. When you were talking about domestic violence, it made me think about the Menendez brothers trial or sentencing coming into question now.
I know I haven't read anything about it. I've just seen the headlines. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
It is. It's going to be very interesting. And frankly, I don't think they were juveniles when they did it. They were just very young people, but
they were young adults. I believe.
Young adults, but it does make you think about that. So, tell me the most common decision that you make in juvenile court. Is it for a sentencing? Is it for probation? What is the most common?
Most common is, if the young person admits to the offense or if we have a trial and they're adjudicated delinquent for the offense, then I have to do the disposition. And disposition is what we call sentencing in the juvenile world. It's interesting because a lot of the terminology is actually a little more complicated in the juvenile world than the adult world because we know that everybody watches TV, so everybody knows what a sentencing is.
Exactly.
If you ask them what a disposition is, they will not have any idea. But
he has a good disposition.
Right, exactly. That's what you think when you think the word disposition. But disposition is actually sentencing in juvenile court. And so any young person that has an adjudication has a disposition. And so then I have to determine the consequences. Majority of kids end up on probation. A lot of kids only end up on probation for 6 months. For those kind of low-level offenders, we do a screening instrument basically to determine what level of supervision they need and whether they need something as intense as a year on probation versus a 6-month term of probation. Because a lot of kids, the vast majority of kids I see them on one case.
I was going to ask that. Actually, that's really good because, there used to be a program called Scared Straight. Maybe they did get scared in there.
And everything said that Scared Straight doesn't work, which is very interesting because it used to be. I remember when I was a older teen, Scared Straight was still around. And to me, I would watch those things and I would be
scared
terrified. Exactly. But apparently the research showed that Scared Straight doesn't work.
Oh, wow.
And so what works is education, evidence-based programming. And so that's what we do is we really try to tailor the consequences to the individual needs of the young person. So that way we can help them make better choices because our goal is rehabilitation in juvenile court. We want these kids to be successful adult members of our community.
And it's education and support that helps them do that, not being scared.
Exactly.
Okay, we'll be right back after this short break. Hello again. It's Carol Chamberlain in for Leza Live on the News 103.5 KYCA, talking with Judge Young. So we have talked a lot about the
The delinquency side.
the delinquency side. Let's talk about the dependency side of your work.
Sure. So I get to meet so many kids and families in my court. And I've got to tell you that when generally a case opens, it's a family in crisis. You know, things aren't going well for this family. And so a lot of times the Department of Child Safety has to get involved. Sometimes the kids end up being removed from the home. But I see parents work their tails off to fix the issues so they can get their kids back. And
That is so good to hear.
yeah, and the nice thing is I've been doing it for so long now. I mean, I first started doing dependency cases in the Verde, actually, before I even moved out to the Juvenile Justice Center. So I think I probably handled my first dependency case in 2011. And so at this point, I run into people in the community who used to be on my caseload, which is pretty amazing. I can tell you that last week I was actually having dinner with some friends, and our waitress had been one of my kids
Oh
on the
my
dependency
gosh.
side.
Oh.
And she let me know that she's expecting, and she gave me a big hug, and she told me thank you, and that I'd helped her out so much. And honestly, it brought me to tears. It really did.
Sure it did.
And this was a kiddo. I met her, I think, in 2011.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so she's doing great 13 years later. She's going to have her family of her own. It was just really wonderful.
Was she replaced with her family?
Yeah.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me I was thinking about heartbreaking and heartwarming. What's a heartbreaking story of the dependency side of juvenile court?
Unfortunately, we do have cases where kids are horribly physically abused. And so, sometimes the kids they get life flighted down to Phoenix Children's Hospital and things like that. And so terrible injuries. And that is really, really hard. I have had cases where, a sibling of the kid on my caseload has been injured fatally. And so that is a really tough situation to deal with. And that's something that you take home with you and you think about it all the time.
I absolutely cannot imagine.
Yeah.
As you are saying these things, I just find myself shivering because it's so, you just can't imagine it. Truthfully, can't imagine it.
Right. Yeah.
So what has a child who has suffered some kind of trauma ever been replaced with their family that you can think of in court?
It happens quite often.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
The research shows us that if kids can be safely reunified with their family of origin, that they do well.
Wow.
Yeah. And kids always crave that connection to family. And so even sometimes we see kids that are adopted into different families. They're curious about their family of origin. They want to have contact with their family of origin. I've got to tell you that I have had amazing foster parents on my caseload who've adopted kids out of bad situations. And then the parents continue a relationship with the foster parents. And so the parents are still involved in these kids' lives when it's safe and appropriate. And that is an amazing thing for a kid.
Well, actually, when you think about it, it's sort of heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time.
Exactly.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, it's just like if I have to terminate a parent's rights, that's really, really sad. I mean, that's amount to a death penalty for a parent to have your kids removed from you forever. But then we do the adoption, which is a joyous thing. And so, yeah, there's a lot of happy, a lot of sad with it. But I've got to tell you that running into people or seeing them in my courtroom as supports for other parents when they've successfully reunified has been amazing.
I truly can only imagine that. So one of the programs that we have in Yavapai County that's been very successful, and I know you've really been involved in it, is CASA.
Right.
What does CASA stand for?
Court-appointed special advocate. And so those are the volunteers that are paired with kids in foster care. They can develop a mentoring relationship, a friendship with these children. They see the kids in home and at school, and they attend meetings, and then they write court reports for me before court hearings. So that way I get their input, because it's a very unique perspective that a volunteer has versus everybody else who's involved in the case is being paid. And so the CASA is the only volunteer that is paired with this kid, and they are there just for the best interest of the child, and it's been amazing.
When
Yeah.
are they assigned? When is a CASA assigned a child? I mean,
Whenever I get a CASA available, and I need more CASAs. We always say each one reach one, and so we encourage our CASA volunteers to talk to their friends and their family about what a rewarding role it is, and so I wish I had a CASA available for every single kid on my caseload. Unfortunately, I don't, and so we try to pair, based on need, basically.
so what does it take to be a CASA?
You have to be background checks. There's a polygraph, an interview, and then you have to do extensive training about the dependency system.
So training with a dependency system, and then how much time is required of a CASA? Because that's an important consideration for some.
And it really depends on the complexity of the case. I have some cases that are, cases that are going really well. It might be a few hours a month. I have cases that if the case is really, really complicated, sometimes CASAs are spending 30 hours a month. And so it just really depends. But we can make sure that a CASA is assigned to a case that they can handle.
Actually, that is such a wonderful thing to hear, because volunteer opportunities are important, but there's nothing important than the safety and happiness of our kids. Thank you so much, Judge Young, for being with us. It has been a pleasure. And thanks to the listening audience for being with me for 3 weeks while Leza's been gone. It's been wonderful. See you again sometime.